welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast, your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here at cagematch.net. I'm your host, Strigger, as always joined by my man who is working shift after shift and is adding another shift here on the Eastern Lariat. Dylan, how are you doing?
Being on here is never work, Strigger. It's never a shift to me. It's my passion, it's my heart, my soul.
It's what drives you.
Absolutely. It's you being here. It's the people listening. It's all of the crazy stuff happening in Japanese pro wrestling, especially, and really the whole world of pro wrestling. We're not here, unlike certain other programs, to talk about who exactly killed WCW. We have a subject near and dear to our hearts, of course. I'm not saying it's not, but there's a time and a place for WCW, and we have to keep it in its own zone, far away from this particular show. I suppose if we did a retrospective on maybe Starrcade 95 with the New Japan guys coming in, that would be a very interesting match, a very interesting show to talk about for sure. But right now we got a lot to get into, lots of fun stuff to talk about, and hopefully everybody out there is doing good. Want to wish everybody well, out there, and thank you guys for tuning in once again.
Absolutely. And on the topic of WCW, I want to put something into perspective for the two of us, Dylan, and for the listeners out there. If you're listening, Walker Stewart, hi. I recently was once again reminded how ungodly, awfully young you are. And to put that into perspective, Walker Stewart, Dylan, was born after WCW folded. Maybe Walker was the one who killed WCW. In his spirit.
Even before he was born.
Before he was born, yes.
That makes very little logical sense, and is an alarming assumption for a teacher to make in the public school system. But I'm not here to judge you or your opinions.
I'm gonna have a theatrical play next week that includes time travel, so everything is possible.
Everything's possible in the world of pro wrestling. But yeah, Walker, yes, he is very young. Not too much younger than I was when I started on the Eastern Lariat 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
a small time period there. But no, I'm actually a big fan of his, to be honest. I think he's done a great job keeping up with Chris, and I think they've really stepped I think a lot of companies right now, for a long time, in all honesty, I wasn't a huge fan of the English commentary on Japanese pro wrestling. It felt a little weird to me, to be honest, because I've been watching it so long with Japanese commentary. But nowadays, I'm kind of used to it. I'm kind of into it. And I think the talent level on all the major companies with English commentary, whether it's New Japan, Noah, Dragon Gate with Jay and Ho-Ho, of course.
NJPW continuously is good with Haku-san.
Even Marigold, I thought they did a good job. Stu Fulton did 2 promotions there. Mark and Noah and Sonny and Marigold, I think they all do a good job. So I like that the place we're at right now in terms of the English commentary. I think that's a place that we have jumped up as years have gone on.
Yes, yeah, true. Yeah, we're going to talk about New Japan a little later here on the show. We're also going to talk about Dragon Gate. You already brought it up. Marigold, Dylan. We want to quickly talk about the big announcement that you already thought that this would be the big announcement. They announced that Iyo Sky will be coming to the Marigold Summer Destiny 2024 show on July 13. It's going to be a pay-per-view on Wrestle Universe from Sumo Hall. And right now we have 2 matches announced. First, of course, the match that I just alluded to with Iyo Sky going against Utami Hayashishita. And, of course, Julia, if she's healthy, and we're expecting her to be, going against Sari. So this announcement, Dylan, what did you think about it?
Rossi did an interview shortly after they announced this. And if you listen to our segment where we were talking about Marigold, and we were talking about them running Sumo Hall so soon, he nearly almost exactly said what I said on that show, which was essentially that they needed to have an ace up their sleeve. They wouldn't have ran Sumo Hall if they didn't have a special announcement. It's almost as if I knew it was going to happen before it even happened. But regardless of that, obviously, I mean, if you see the announcement of it, Utami's reaction made this seem like such a huge deal in and of itself on there. I think this is an underrated. You kind of mentioned time. I talked about it a second ago. 8 years I've been on this show. That's a long time, and it feels like it flies by. It doesn't seem that long, to be honest with you. And you look at it, Iyo has been gone for a while from Japan. Yeah. It's not like she's just
2018.
It was definitely around there. I think so. I think it would have to be maybe 17. Even.
Look at this wonderful website I just shouted out. Let's see.
Yeah. So she
was in fact 2018.
Yeah, that's right. Because they did the Mae Young Classic and all that stuff. She was a part of and all that. She had that NXT run. So that's 6 years that she's been in WWE. Like I said, that's a pretty long time. That was before Bushiroad bought Stardom. Like, that company's totally different now than it was the one that she left, let alone this new promotion Rossi's starting up.
And you got to add to that perception of time in wrestling in the modern times is much different than it used to be in the 80s or in the 90s. A 6-year-long run in one company would be an enormous run in the 80s or in the 90s. But nowadays, it has become the norm that wrestlers stay that long, especially with the WWE.
Yeah, that's true. And at WWE, God knows that company changes every week, pretty much, with what they want to do. So, Iyo's been gone for a long time. I think that's an underrated aspect of this story, and a test for her, because if you notice, she doesn't really have a lot of experience as a main event player on this level of a Sumo Hall show. The Stardom she left was not running these events regularly. And I'm not saying anything about her star power now, but I'm just saying that's not like the Stardom that she left wasn't running this level of shows at the end of the day.
That's right.
And I think that's something worth remembering as well. So it's interesting. The buzz around it for Western fans is obviously really big. And again, Utami's reaction was so great. I thought they did a fantastic job. Everything about this promotion, in terms of its rollout, has been really, really well done, I would say. And I remember us kind of talking about it. And same thing with Sari and Julia. I mean, Julia did have the big show, this biggest in Stardom history. But this is still kind of an untested matchup at this major league level of Sumo Hall. So now you've got these matches. I think this was basically as good of a 1-2 punch as you could ask for, all things considered. They really worked hard to make this feel like a big deal. And it's still very early starting off. I mean, we don't even have a champion yet of this company, and we're still running Sumo Hall. I'm still personally, I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm not a little skeptical of this show, but in terms of match quality, I mean, this is awesome. Iyo and Utami are going to have a great match in all likelihood. It's going to mean everything to Utami. Iyo, it'll be interesting to see how she adapts back to a Japanese company like this. Again, she's been gone for a while in that WWE zone. She's really had her biggest push the last year or so. She was the champion for a while, even got to be on a main event title match, or a WrestleMania title match for the women's title. Not the main event, but still. I wonder how she's going to take to this. I think she's going to be really interested to make this a good match, like the best return she can make it. And with Julia and Sari, I think that they're going to work very hard as well. So, again, a little bit untested, a little bit skeptical on my personal point of view. But as a fan, I think they did the best job they could.
Yeah, that's great for the company, and we discussed it on our last show as well. These two matches are probably the biggest matches you can do for a show like that.
Yeah.
If you're just strictly down to Yoshi wrestling with Julia versus Sari and Utami versus Iyo Sky, that's two huge matches in the current Yoshi landscape. And I do think it will get a big audience. And I also think with the rollout of the company, much like you said, it was a very successful rollout for the company. And they also had Korakuen Hall packed to the max for their debut show. The excitement is there for Marigold. For Marigold. And I do feel it's going to be another of these cases, Dylan, we've talked about that numerous times before. When companies put on big shows, people usually tend to go to these big shows more than they tend to go to smaller shows. Like, for example, if they would do that in Let's just say in Nagoya or anything like that.
Right.
They will go to Sumo Hall because Sumo Hall has some cachet. Sumo Hall is a big building. Sumo Hall means this is going to be a big spectacle of a show, and that alone can be a draw for a company like Marigold.
I mean, that was really one of the things that jump-started Noah back a few years ago when Kaito and Keno, like, nobody expected that show to be successful, except for me, of course. The
Budokan show, right?
No, even before that. Remember, they had the whole storyline of Keno saying, I'll lead us back to the Budokan.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they did a Sumo Hall show, what was that, the style battle, aesthetic battle? Battle of Aesthetics, yeah. That was a Sumo Hall show, and nobody expected that show to be successful. And it was. And it led to them eventually going back to the Budokan as well. So this can be a very good step for Marigold to start off. It's still a little early again. If I were doing it, maybe I'm a little more conservative. But hey, Rossi's been at it for a long time. And like I said, you're totally right about the opening show. It totally worked out. Even their return to Korakuen, which happened a couple of days ago at this point, was almost 1,000. It was like 985 on there. So they're looking pretty healthy right now. Again, we haven't even got a champion yet. We're still, we're still walking. We're not running, let alone leaping. So we have to give them a little bit more time to really reach their final form, whatever that will take. But for an opening segment, you get the big Iyo Shirai return, Iyo Sky return. You get the big match with Sari and Julia. Everybody's hyped for it. They're doing a great job. You really have to praise them. They're doing everything they can to make this as successful as possible. And to be honest, this isn't necessarily a reflection of the overall landscape of Japan in terms of Joshi wrestling. But I'll tell you right now, this stuff with Iyo and everything going on with Marigold, that got so much more buzz than Stardom announcing the 5-star Grand Prix, blocks going in there.
Yep.
I mean, well, half of them anyway, going in there. I thought this announcement, if you just look at the Western side of things, I mean, they're really winning right now. And even like that Korakuen that Marigold just did like 200 more people than Stardom's last.
I do feel that Stardom is not getting the attention that it used to have from the Western audience, to be specific, that it used to have when Marigold wasn't around. I think it's going to be tough for them right now, at least for the next coming months, because Marigold, of course, is the new thing, and people will attach themselves to something that's new. We're going to see how that develops in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you're in Marigold's position, you have to be optimistic of your position.
And you have to make moves right now.
Yeah, and they're trying. I mean, you cannot deny the effort that they're making. Getting this, again, WWE, maybe they're more open-minded or whatever to work with more companies now, but it's still a very rare thing for a WWE person to wrestle in a company like this in Japan. It's something you can count on one hand, like, in the last decade, pretty much, that's happened. You had Kenta come back for Noah, Nakamura for Noah, Dempsey for All Japan, and now Iyo for Marigold. Mm-hmm. So, like that, it's on one hand, so it is a big deal for them, and they're getting a good amount of buzz. Again, I think this helps the Western audience a lot, really jump in, and their big thing, in my opinion, was whatever deal they cut to get on Wrestle Universe. I think that helped them a ton. If they didn't have that backing, I think they'd be not in a tough spot, because I do think there would be interest in them anyway. But making yourself more accessible to people, the fans don't have to work as hard to like you. They just have to watch you. And you're going to win them over because you have a great roster. And they're proving that that's true right now. So I think they've done a lot of things right so far. I'm definitely very optimistic about this Sumo Hall show. Again, I'm not going through the moon and saying this is going to be some huge, gangbuster show. It's going to be a really good show quality-wise. And you hope that we can turn it, the moves they make can draw a great audience. And I'm hopeful and optimistic for it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One more announcement they made was that Ria Marumori, that used to be with Sendai Girls, is coming into the company. So, much like I said, they are making moves, right?
I mean, you can always you're going to build this company around young talent. Again, if you look at the roster itself, you've got a handful of big players and a lot of people hoping to step up into those roles. It's not like a fully fledged roster. If you look at it purely on in-ring talent, it doesn't actually stack up to Stardom, like just in terms of quantity. So they need more people, and a lot of these young girls are going to really, they're going to bring a lot to the table that they want. And you can see how, if you look at how they've measured out their shows since the opening, they're really giving these actress girls a lot of shine in big matches and stuff as well. They're trying to get these people up to where they need to be the best they can. So you can tell there's a concentrated effort with a lot of these younger talents that Marigold's got to make them step up and show them in a great light.
Yes, and Maomori, in the few matches I saw of her in Sender Girls, she was really good. So that should be a good pickup for Marigold then. Another company, Dylan, that has 2 big shows scheduled in the next coming months is GLEAT. They have a show scheduled for July 1st, their GLEAT version 12 show from Tokyo Dome City Hall. And believe it or not, but GLEAT is also going to Osaka on October 6th to run the big Ideon Arena that New Japan is also running. And I guess for a company that has trouble drawing a big crowd to Korakuen Hall, they need some big names and some big news. And they tried over this last weekend. The owner, Hiroyuki Suzuki, brought in Katsuhiko Nakajima, who is still doing the gimmick that he's homeless and living under a bridge. And he brought him in to watch a 6-man tag match during the latest show they had on June 9. And the match he watched was Hartley Jackson, Keiichi Sato, and Kotaro Suzuki versus Takanori Ito, So Daimonji, and Issei Onitsuka. And after that, Nakajima said, "Can I leave now?" And Suzuki said, "Yeah, you can, but I want to discuss stuff with you again in the future," because he apparently wants him to wrestle one of the guys that was in the match. So I'm presuming that would be Takanori Ito, really the only thing that really makes sense to me, even though it would be great if it was Hartley. But I'm thinking that it would be Ito. So bringing in Nakajima to GLEAT garnered some buzz on Sunday during Dominion when it was live on New Japan World. Some people started discussing Nakajima's return here to action, or at least to be visible on screen. And apparently he's going to get into the ring for GLEAT. If that necessarily does anything for the company, I am highly skeptical of, because anyone that they've brought in the last couple of months quickly became just a dude. Even if you look at guys like Yato Tamura, Kaito Ishida, SBK, or Takuma, all these guys are on the roster and they are doing fine for themselves in their role, but I don't think that they are any kind of difference makers. Nakajima, we saw that in All Japan Pro Wrestling, he can be a difference maker, but All Japan is a much different environment than GLEAT is. In GLEAT is a company where they have so many different puzzle pieces, and they tend to throw them all against the wall in one fell swoop, and the puzzle usually doesn't align very well. And they have a show that, or they have shows that have a lot of okay matches, but don't really function well as complete shows. Dylan, where are you standing on this?
So, I would say this in the rare occasions we bring them up. I actually like their shows well enough. Like, I don't have any emotional attachment to anything going on with them, but like if you just want a very easy show, you can watch it on YouTube for free. You usually take about 2 hours or so. Just easy to watch wrestling. They're pretty good for that. I mean, they have a somewhat interesting crop of people. I wouldn't say it's like, again, the roster is good. Like, I think for the most part. It's just that, I'll tell you, there was a match a couple of, months ago. They had that UWF show.
Yep.
And they had Sato and Ito in the main event. And that was that was the best I ever saw Ito look.
I will say also, yes, Takanori Ito against So Daimonji in the No Ropes match was also pretty great.
That's another good match. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, these are all really talented wrestlers. You know, on there, but they don't do anything interesting with any of them. Is the problem. So you look at their shows. I mean, you want to talk about no buzz. I think that would really measure them very strongly. I would say right now, there's nothing going on that anybody could care about with this company at the moment.
And that's the thing. Quickly want to jump ahead to the Despe show that we're going to address too.
Oh yeah,
that show had such a great vibe because it felt like something completely unique, and you had a feeling that this was put together so well for the audience, both in Korakuen and on the screen, that this was a complete show. But it rarely feels like with GLEAT that they have anything going on their shows, much like I said, that really is of any consequence. When I'm looking at this recent card, I mean, out of nowhere, they had MXM on their shows in a tag team match. They have they now all of a sudden have Kendo Kashin and Katsuhiko Fujita on their shows, and all that stuff. They bring in people left and right. They transition them out and in. It's really hard to get into their shows. Even if the wrestling is just not really like complicated or overly convolutedly booked or anything, but it's weird. It's a weird company.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not complicated at all. It's easy to watch. They had the DDT show like a week ago or whatever. They had like the
that
crossover.
Also had some good matches. I mean, I liked Yu Iizuka and Tetsuya Endo. I thought Endo looked really well on that match. They had the Toy and Kazuma Sumi match versus SBK and Takuma. That was good. So good matches overall.
Yeah, like I said, so like if you just want to look at basic like in-ring talent, they're good. It's just you have to accept that there's no buzz to anything they do, and there's nothing really to grab your heart. I guess the closest is this Hayashi retirement thing.
Yeah,
and it's not really been taken advantage of to any noticeable way. So now that brings us to Nakajima, and a lot of the reaction I saw was disappointment that he went to this company, which is not the reaction I think you want when announcing a big star to you. Yeah, and the thing with him is, yes, he was a good difference maker, hands down with All Japan, like no doubt about it. But I feel like he needs his Kento, like to latch on to, like someone in this company, which I mean, it seems like they're trying to set that up.
I wouldn't rule it out that Suzuki is trying to get Kento away from All Japan to have a match with Katsuhiko Nakajima.
I mean, anything's possible. I mean, they've worked with All Japan plenty of times before.
They did? Yes.
Yeah, like a ton of times. I mean, Hartley was just in the carnival not that long ago. So it's like they've worked together in so many different fashions. It wouldn't be that crazy. It would be weird if Kento's win finally came on a GLEAT show instead of an All Japan show. But I mean, at this point, if you're GLEAT, you just want to try, just reach for something and hope that it means something. But for Nakajima, I said it to you on the DM. Either he is a complete dumbass, like total moron, like fumbling the bag huge, or he's so far, like he's thinking so far ahead of everyone else that this is going to end up in a huge dome match. Like he's going to be one of the main players by January 4th. And I
am genuinely so excited to find out one of the two it's going to be, because I don't feel there's any middle ground.
Exactly. Like there's no in between. If he becomes the face of GLEAT, then he's totally screwed up. Like that means he's burned his bridge with All Japan. And he's burned his bridge with Noah. Where is he going to go at this point? And that's kind of what this feels like at first glance. That's kind of what this feels like to me. Like, where else will he go? This is the last bastion. Of course, the island of wayward sons like SBK and all of these other people. So he's got nowhere else to go. GLEAT brings him in. That's what this feels like. But I will have to admit that it is possible that we can't see his vision right now, and it's going to play out in a way he looks like a genius and gets a huge payoff to all of this. But it's hard to see that right now with him and GLEAT.
Yes, yeah. There's nothing more to add from my side, actually. Yeah. That's it. That's it with Nakajima and Great.
We'll see.
They once again did this weird deal. I just mentioned the tag match that I saw. Takuma and SBK against Katsuma, Sumi, and Toy. Of course, they put the former Dragon Gate guys against another former Dragon Gate guy, so they can't stop with the shoots on Dragon Gate.
It more or less is a Dragon Gate-esque.
It is.
Like,
it is very much so.
If you look at it.
They somewhat also copied the model of the keys that you get for the Dreamgate belt instead of keys for title defenses. So the challenger for the Dreamgate championship gets a key to open up the Dreamgate championship if he wins it. But if the champion defends it, he gets the key for everyone to see how many defenses he has had. And in Great, the champion gets medals to display how many defenses he has had. So yeah, that's what we have. But yeah, Dylan, on the topic of Dragon Gate.
Yeah.
They had a double shot in Korakuen Hall on June 4 and in June 5. And of course, we had two big matches on these individual shows that resulted first in Benkei winning the Dreamgate Championship, so cashing in his key. He defeated Luis Mante, whose reign has come to an end now, just before Kobe World. And Benkei, the new champion, is going to make his first defense of the title at Kobe World on July 21st against the winner of the hair versus hair match between YAMATO and Kota Minoura. And that, of course, was YAMATO. He defeated Benkei's stablemate Minoura in dominant fashion, and we can also look at the Dreamgate title match. In the end, it was a match that during the match you thought that either guy could win the match, but in the final minutes it was very clear that Benkei was getting the dominant role, and Luis Mante was bumping very well for him too, to make him look good. So in the end, two very clear decisions that Dragon Gate made, changing the title and getting the hair versus hair done there. Where do you stand on these two matches that Dragon Gate put out?
Yeah, Ben beating Mante. It's not like they haven't done this before. Quick title changes before, right before Kobe World. I mean, technically, even last year, they didn't really have a shot from when Kikuta won it to Kobe World.
Yeah.
That was his last. He won it and then defended it against Yoshioka, and they've done it before. One of the biggest ones I remember, and I hated this at the time, was when Hulk lost to Yoshino right before T-Hawk was challenging for the belt at Kobe World, and I just because Hulk's reign was one of the best in Dragon Gate in my opinion. So I hated that, but they've done this kind of thing before. A quick title change before Kobe World instead of their main event. I'm not against it, only because I think Monte's title reign wasn't that strong. And I think Benkei is very over. It's a showcased in that very match himself. And I thought he was fantastic in the match. His performance was great overall. Mante, I still respect him as a performer. I think ultimately he was miscast as the champion, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And a lot went wrong on the way to get there. You go back to last year, he had the amazing moment in the cage match. Boom, he's gone for 3 months after. Immediately after that, they do Big Hug, and they've kind of given Hyo more of the focus of his own group. And, even Jackie's been more storyline focused the last couple of months than he has. So it's like a lot went against him, and we've talked about it ad nauseum. We talked about it before when it happened. The triple threat title match was the all wrong way to start this whole thing off. So he had an unfortunate title run, and he couldn't really overcome all of that.
At the time in December it was. In January was his first defense against Skywalker. That also felt not as heated as it could have been because they did it so soon. Even the title win in December, we tried to talk ourselves into liking it, I think, because we like Luis Mante so much and we were liking him so much after the cage match. But it was such a weird deal, and it was another case of our talking point that we always bring up with Dragon Gate is that there are really few stories for the Dreamgate, or there have been few stories for the Dreamgate. So the story that they had there was between Mante and Skywalker, and Madoka Kikuta just came in there, because Skywalker and Mante were both screaming at one another, claiming to be the number one in Dragon Gate, and Mante and Madoka Kikuta said, I'm number one. And that was the whole storyline between them for the three-way match. And, well, Kikuta lost, so he was not number one. And from there on, we had matches against Susumu Ikusuka. That was a good match, but still, though, not a very compelling storyline. More compelling maybe was the storyline with Johnny Valera. The match, not so much, even though it was probably one of Valera's best ones. What else did we have? Did we have another one?
No, because I had the tag league, remember? I rated Perez in between.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm just looking at Mante's reign.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really it. That was really
it was.
Yeah. So not really a lot to offer. And you mentioned Big Hug. I think one of the reasons why Hio has become such a big deal in Big Hug is because he's the talker of the group. And that is one thing that I fail to really understand. And I know that Japanese, of course, is a hard language to get used to and to adapt. And we all are on different levels what our skills of learning foreign languages are, of course. But Luis Mante, he has been in Japan for years. During the pandemic, he stayed in Japan during the pandemic, and I don't know if he doesn't feel confident enough to talk Japanese, or if he's not able to, but he only has like one or two sentences that he really has in his repertoire to even address the crowd with, and it's always Hio who does the talking. And we know from Dragon Gate that, of course, yes, the wrestling is important, but it's I think Dragon Gate, I think there is no company in Japan where the talking is as important as in Dragon Gate. It's almost as equally as important as the wrestling, because how you come across especially as a babyface in this instance with Big Hug, is so vital and so important to the position that you get within the company. And I don't feel that Mante is bringing that. And they also didn't really help him out with great storylines. And so that's where we are with him. He's a champion. He has been Dream Gate champion now. You can never go back to him not being one. But in retrospect, I don't think it was a good decision. And I don't foresee him to be in the Dream Gate mix in the foreseeable future, if he will be in there at any point again.
Well, you saw where they slotted him. Immediately after he's back in the tag range, which is where he's really had a lot, but his most success, really. To me, I think they could have fixed this in one way. If I could have redone this whole deal, I would have, instead of putting him with Hio, in hindsight, if your goal is to push Mate as a big name, I would have had Ultimo be his talker. Like, instead of Hio, because you have a guy who's not really a threat, like a competitive guy who's going to be a main event player. He's just the dad figure, that they occasionally wrestle with. And it meant so much, that promo after the cage match with Ultimo in there. I think I would have tried to do that and have him be the run. But I really think this all started with him missing all that time after the cage. Yeah. I think if that had changed, I think a lot would have changed, because you have to remember that Kikuta title reign, you say it's a mistake going to Mante, but to me, the Kikuta reign was probably worse than Monte's was. If I had to pick one over the other, just no juice whatsoever in that reign, unless it was a big boss going for the belt, and that got played off, and it really went away, like that whole deal afterwards. I think Mante, they had to get the belt off Kikuta. And it would have been kind of bad, because Kikuta beating Shun was such a big moment. You might not have wanted to go, have him lose to Shun out of the way. But ideally, with Mante, you would have wanted to build to a big match, and they made their decision. They went away from that and went with Benkei in the main event, in a match that has really no. I guess somewhat recent history. I guess him, shaving his teammate, if you want to count that as a storyline, if they could build onto that. With Yamato and Benkei. But they went with those guys. Yamato, one of the hottest guys. Benkei, super over. In that match, Benkei had the crowd on his side against Mante. And Yamato had the crowd on his side against Minoru.
Very clearly, yeah.
And I mean, his whole storyline, it was totally like topsy-turvy. This man has destroyed Minoura this whole year and beat him so many times. And they were cheering against the underdog to go with Yamato, who cut a phenomenal promo afterwards. You know, he said, I was looking at what Dragon Gate's been missing. And that's when I realized what it's been missing is more Yamato. What a great line! Totally got off.
Fantastic line.
And you could tell they believe in him for real. They're giving him a whole new faction, which this company has needed for some time. And we've said this, God, for years now. I think talking about, man, if DG needs to shake things up with their factions, their units. And I mean, they gave him a new one. That shows you that they have some faith in him as a main guy right now.
Yeah, exactly. They do have. One conspiracy theory, Dylan, I can't hold that one back. I was thinking about that last week. Could it have been, I'm just joking, of course, could it have been that they purposely sabotaged Dreamgate runs in order to get this Yamato story off the ground, that what is Dragon Gate missing? It is, of course, Yamato.
Let's just say it was a happy accident that became this. I mean, we'll see how it does. As a title match, again, we're kind of a short-term title match, but again, it's not something that's unheard of. Yeah. Right. And to me, they've already done more to build up Yamato and Benkei than they did last year with Kikuta and Yoshioka. So they're already a step ahead from where they were last year.
I will agree with that, and I want to put some names to that as well for Dragon. Yeah. I think they are making good moves right now. When you look at the roster they have right now, they have brought back Flamita to great success, in my opinion. He has had a great Brave Gate match with Hio, one of the best of Hio's run. And I do think that Hio's run is going to come to an end. They also have Mochizuki Jr. back, who has made a great return, beating Yasushi Kanda and submitting Minorita with that great standing camel clutch thing. They also have La Estrella back for a tour, or for however long he's going to be back. So, and they also have this dude from California, El Kukui, Dylan, that huge-looking guy who destroyed the ring at the first Korakuen Hall show for DG. He wrestled with a splash off the top rope. And on that show that they had Benkei versus Luis Mante, they also had this great 8-man tag match with Dragon Dia, Dragon Kid, Flamita, and Ninja Mac going over Zebrats. I felt that was a really great match, and my favorite match of that show. And so they have many pieces that they brought in, aligned to different groups, aligned to different storylines. And I want to say the road that they have started to Kobe World probably is the best road they have had in years.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that they remember the infamous year with Minoura butting in to the Kai and Yoshioka title match, which looked like it was going great with Yoshioka winning the tournament, and then everything just flew off the rails, epic fumbling of the bag, all-time worst build by the end. And the show was a dead show, one of the worst Kobe Worlds that ever happened. Both shows on that show, outside of the tag match that they had, which we're going to talk about a little bit when we talk about the Kobe World this year, the tag match they set up. But I agree with you. I like a lot of what they're setting up. They told really good storylines, particularly with Yamato and Minoura. And with this title match, I think they've done an excellent job. One of the best, in my opinion, I would say, because like I said, last year, nobody thought Yoshioka was going to beat Kikuta. On his V0, title defense, that wasn't going to happen. Yoshioka, when he won the title, everybody knew he was going to win. There was no way Kai was walking out of the champion. We knew this. They've created a main event where it feels like both men have a valid shot at winning, either could win.
Yes.
And whoever wins, you can't say is the wrong decision. I think that both men, either way, it's successful. They could spin either man winning into a good story for the future and build off of it into something great. So I think that's A+ work from Dragon Gate.
I agree with that. And I want to go into that, Dylan, because you said either guy could win the title or defend the title for that matter. I would be in strong favor to keep Benkei as champion, Because with Kota Minoura losing his hair to Yamato, you said it, Korakuen was behind Yamato, and I want to say that the crowd probably was feeling what Dragon Gate is doing. Kota Minoura is right now at his lowest, and the crowd response was very equal to that presentation that he has gotten in the last couple of months, because he was losing specifically to Yamato a lot in tag and multi-man matches. So I feel like that was part of the crowd responding to that presentation of Kota Minoura, getting behind Yamato and also helping Yamato out to then utter that statement that he is what Dragon Gate was missing. So the crowd was very helpful, I think, for Dragon Gate to get that message across. But with Minoura being out and being at his lowest, I can also, of course, see that he will turn against Gold Class, or maybe Gold Class will turn against Ben-K and form something new. Who knows what they have planned there? But I do think that this group, for better or for worse, is coming to an end. They have been waiting until Minorita came back now, and I do feel that there has to be a reason that they've waited so long to keep that group around. And also, mind you, in the tag league, they lost all of their matches. So there is another reason for Minoura to say, why am I staying with that guy? He now has a Dream Gate, and what do I have? I don't have anything right now. I don't even have my hair anymore. And so I can see a turn. And so Ben-K versus Kota Minoura would make sense as a Dream Gate title match, maybe for Final Gate, maybe for Gate of Destiny. Who knows how quickly they can get Kota Minoura back on a level that you will believe him as a challenger. But there is also money in a rematch between Yamato and Kota Minoura if Yamato wins the Dream Gate title. So there's really multiple opportunities that you have, multiple ways you can go. And I do feel that Dragon Gate is in a position, as good of a position that they've had in years, really, because it always felt like in the last couple of years that the route that they had taken was very one-sided, and they didn't really have the outs where they could say, okay, we're going this way, or we call an audible on this one to go into a different direction. I do feel like they have different directions laid out right now.
I think that, to me, I think I agree with all your points, by the way. I really have no argument there. I think my only kind of thing that would make me not be surprised if Yamato won, I think the biggest, in terms of storyline, the biggest match they could do is Yamato and Minoura right now. That has the heaviest load attached to it. Now, they could get to Ben-K and Minoura later on, if they do the turn and all of that as well. So it's it's not like they can't get there they can do all sorts of things, like you said, to get there. But I think the Minoura and Yamato feud has totally worked for both men. And really helped them out a lot. Maybe not Minoura. I think that, to your point, in my opinion, one of the most common tropes, and I think what they were going for a bit here with this, was to make Minoura a huge underdog type of character, to give him something radically different from what was happening before, which wasn't that great, to be honest with you. I didn't think he was a standout player by any stretch of the imagination the last couple of years in DG. So they've rebooted him a little bit with this, and I think that they would have wanted the crowd to rally behind him and this new generation a little bit more, instead of the crowd rallying behind Yamato. And speaking, the Millionaires Club, the WCW, the fans are coming back around to the old guys, which they need to ultimately
the new Mafia.
Even in TNA, yes, the main event Mafia. Ultimately, this has to end with the young guys triumphing, and not just winning, but they have to win the fans on top of them, which I think Ben-K is much further along than Minoura at this point. So with that said, I do think that's the best possible match. And they need to wrap up the storyline. They can't just have Yamato beat him a million times and then him never get his win back. Exactly. He has to win at some point over Yamato. How they get there could work in numerous ways. Again, I personally, if it's just what Dylan wants to happen, I love Ben-K. I think he's one of their best wrestlers. I've always said that, even when he was, Strigga, whenever we talked about DG in the past, 2021, 22. He was always a guy I put over as one of the best, not just in DRAGONGATE, but one of the best in all of, one of the best heavyweights in any company to me. I think he could have been that. And like I saw that in the match with Mate. That guy who wrestled in that main event was always here. Like, he was always this talented. He just wasn't giving the opportunities. And now you're showing what he could do with it, which had a really good match. I will say that I did think the Yamato hair match and Minoru match was the better of the two main events.
I agree. Yeah.
But both were worth watching, I would say, overall. And the story stuff is all hits right now. So I like what they're doing. You have compelling arguments for Benkei and Yamato. Either one, I'm probably going to come on here. I guess unless something like really crazy happens in that main event that turns me off of this whole thing. Whatever happens, I'm going to be along for the ride, and I'm going to be enjoying it because I really like what they've done so far with the main event. I think that's something I'm really happy because you were so right at the start of this when you said the stories for the DreamGate. It hasn't been peaches and cream these past few years for the DreamGate. I personally liked Yoshioka's reign. I know that's some people argue against that. I like Kai's reign as well. That wasn't
Yoshioka's reign was the last one that really had a storyline implication with him going against former DreamGate champions and legends of the company.
And all very well done matches.
Yeah.
I would say, too. If you look at his run, the Mochizuki match was fun.
Outstanding, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great title reign. I got to disagree because I see a lot of the inmates, whenever they talk about Yoshioka, talk a little down on him, but I thought he was great. And he's another guy. I mean, we were talking about guys coming back. He's on the shelf right now. What about when he comes back? Like, what are they going to do with him? I think he's got a great chance, regardless. If Yamato or Benkei is the champion, he's got an easy option to challenge that for a major match when he comes back. So lots of good stuff happening in DG. Love the DreamGate right now. Definitely think it's the best since Yoshioka. I think the Shun, the problem with Shun, it wasn't that it was terrible. It was just very short. You got one defense and then he lost it to Kakuta. And Kakuta's reign, I wasn't a fan of at all. He's one of those guys I always point to. Somebody can be a great wrestler, but not everybody needs to be the champion.
Exactly.
And I think Monte kind of fell into that, although I do think he got a kind of a raw deal.
I kind of expect Monte to bounce back into a tag team role, much like you said. He is in the Twin Gate match at Kobe World. I don't think he will be winning. And I said that Iyo could be losing the Brave Gate title to Dragon Dia at Kobe World. So I am looking forward to a prolonged Open the Triangle Gate reign for Big Hog.
That would be good. If they want to keep Hyo as a champion, I agree with you. If it were up to me, Dia should win the belt, like the Brave Gate. I think he's a fresh guy. They need to get behind him. He got a really good reaction upon his return from the tournament. Where we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yep.
He got a good reaction. Maybe now's finally the time. And he's another guy like Benkei. If he comes in and has a great match, that guy was always there. He could have been doing this stuff the whole time. They just chose to have him on the bench for whatever reason.
Them to do something last year, which is why I drafted him for our game that we did. For the draft that we did. I kind of expected that last year, but it didn't really come to fruition. But now, 2024, Benkei champion, I'm happy about that.
You definitely made a huge mistake testing the Mirai Respectors with Dragon Dia and the Dragon Gate guys. But no, I love him, though, as a wrestler. If we were talking talent-wise, he would be definitely a draft pick I would go after. But I agree with that. The tag match looks phenomenal, in my opinion. It calls back to that the Kung Fu Masters versus Shun and Diamante. I totally see a spot with Shun and Diamante teaming up at one point in this match. Maybe maybe hitting the finishing move.
Out of muscle memory, he'll will stand there and say, that's what we're doing.
Or just have Shun try to sucker him into teaming with him, and then they beat the hell out of somebody like in the match. For a brief period, of course, Shun would turn on him. But, you do that. I love that match. I actually think if it were me, I would have Shun and Jason win to continue this Jason push. I think Shun, to me, is the straw that stirs the drink in a lot of things in DG.
Yeah.
And to have him as a champion, I think we need Shun with a belt right now.
So like I said, right now for Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival, we have these 3 matches. Main event, Benkei versus Yamato, Brave Gate, Hio versus Dragon Dia, and the Twin Gate title match, much like you said. I think this match can be the fuel to more stable chaos in Dragon Gate, and much like you said, the one that steers the deal there is Shun Skywalker. So we have Dragon Kid and Naoki Doi of the new group Paradox, that's the veteran unit, defending the title against Shun Skywalker and Jason Lee of Zebrats. And Naoki Doi can't be happy about that either, because Dragon Kid lost to Jackie Kamai, and he promised title shots to all of these 3 teams without Naoki Doi being around at that specific show that he did that. The heel team of Zebrats right now is composed of Shun, Jason Lee, Ishin, and Kai, with Yoshiki Kato probably returning around Kobe World, I would say. Then we have the Natural Vibes team of KZ and Flamita in the mix, and Big Hug, Luis Mante, and Jackie Kamai. I can see another case of Zebrats beating KZ in this case, even though I'm not sure if this is going to be these multi-man matches in Dragon Gate are usually elimination rules.
Yeah.
So it might be coming down to the champions and Zebrats, with maybe Shun eliminating Natural Vibes first to further storylines between Zebrats and Natural Vibes.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I think you could make a case for Big Hug, especially if Yamato is winning the belt in the main event, or you have No Hug win the belts, or retain the titles rather. I think you could make a good case for that, and I really like them as a team too. I think they go the other great. I think the whole group is good. I'm mainly just into the fact that we get a new faction, more or less on there. That's the main thing, and it's built around a guy who's one of their hottest characters right now. So yeah, I like Paradox. It'll be interesting to see where they go overall, if this is a long-term thing. And I like that they kind of went away from the traditional, we are team veteran returns stuff. Have we seen before? They kind of went away.
We are Kung Fu Masters 2.
And that's a whole new thing starting up there. Shout out to my boy Ho Ho for that.
It's great that he gets to do something with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. But about Paradox, though, it feels like a real main event level group right now. You've got belts. You have the guy about to main event Kobe World in it. You've got a lot of respected talents. You could do a lot of cool things with these guys. And Dragon Kid, another guy like Ben K, a guy I've always rallied behind, is one of the best. And I love what they bring to the table. Him and Doi have great chemistry as a team. I like the whole group. I did hear, shout out Open the Voice Gate. Case was talking about how he didn't like that they didn't have a color. But then, unfortunately, he had to bring up the Los Angeles Chargers color scheme, which, that's not a winning team, Case. When have the Chargers ever won anything in this league?
Don't look at me, I don't know.
Well, this is NFL talk right now, but all you need to know is it's like powder blue and bright yellow. Like it's
just
not
looking
that.
at it here.
What do you think? What do you think of the scheme? Is this a main event? Is this a main event level group?
Nope.
Yeah, the Chargers are mid-carders in the NFL lore, if there ever was one, and they have a cheater as their coach right now that they brought in from college. So we'll see what happens with that. To be fair, my team, although our color scheme is awesome, we're jobber level of the NFL right now, unfortunately, with the Panthers. We're trying to fight our way back up. We're the menorah of NFL.
Listen, Dylan, my football team in Germany, we are the Royal Blues, but we are, truth be told, a jobber team right now.
But one day the Panthers, much like Menorah, will eventually beat Yamato. We will also rise up. But the fact of the matter is, I somewhat agree with those criticisms. A new color scheme would be, I'm not against it for sure. It would be kind of good. And I definitely agree that I think that's something I want to see that happen at Kobe World. That's where I stand on that. I'd like to see him debut a new gear at Kobe World going for the title, like fresh new. Yeah, make an impact. The whole crew comes out. Again, if No Hug retains the belts, you could have them all standing there with it. You could do so much cool stuff, and I love that there's so many possibilities right now with this. And that's why I like this Paradox stable. I think there's a lot of things you can go on with the group itself, let alone Yamato. So I'm into it, and I look forward to where they go.
And it's really a perfect stable if you look at the grand scheme of Dragon Gate booking and Dragon Gate cards, because a Dragon Gate stable usually is a good one when you can do at least 2 matches per show with that group. So with that group, you can do a tag match and you can do a 6-man tag, or you can do a singles. Yokosuka has done a singles against Jason Lee, for example, recently. You can do an 8-man and a singles match on a card with Paradox. And other groups in the past really struggled because with Big Hug, of course, you can do 2 matches at a card, but you always burn singles matches with that. With D-Courage, with the addition of Ryoya Tanaka, the group has gotten much more dynamic because you could do 2 matches per card before Yuki Yoshioka was injured, of course. And now with the Dragon Dia returning, they can do 2 once again. Gold Class also had that problem that Minoura was out and BB Hulk really is on his last legs of his career right now. So there were some stables in Dragon Gate that had the problem that you couldn't really do a lot with them in the Dragon Gate style. Zebrats, 4 guys right now. Difficult to do 2 matches, just 2 tag matches. Natural Vibes, 5 guys. So it really feels like, Dylan, that we're at a point where there is so many groups in this company that I guess 1 or 2 would have to go to fill up other groups or to form a new one to really have one of these groups once again that can rival Paradox and fit the Dragon Gate scheme. So, Dylan, what do you think is happening in the stable melee next in Dragon Gate?
Again, it's like a domino effect, kind of. It depends on where they want to ultimately go, particularly with Minoura. Because if, as you had talked about earlier, about him turning heel potentially, I think that opens the door for so many different things. You could have him turn on Ben-K. An idea that I had was that, because I've always said this, I think Minoura should destroy Minorita. Like, take him out for a little while, like a month or 2, and have him return as himself and help Ben-K. Because I've always thought Minorita worked better with Ben-K than Minoura himself. So yes. Keep those 2 together, have Ben-K lead his own group, and with Minorita, maybe some other guys come in there. Let's see what happens with Mochi Jr. I think this guy's got a chance to be a main event player sooner rather than later. Like I said, he's had it from day one. That's a guy you walk when he comes in, when Ultimo changed his name and it was really random. But, man, this guy, he just had swag to him right away.
Who would you pair Mochi Jr. with right now?
See, now that's a good question. Because the thing with his dad is that they've basically already done that. So I kind of feel like old hat to put him back with Mochi. I think they need to find someone else. Who stylistically would he work with the best?
I think Ben-K.
Yeah, have him be
Mochi and Ben.
I love that. Like on paper, I love that team. I think that they could really do a lot of great things together. Give Mochi like a true chance to be like a top guy. Like number 2, maybe semifinalist and King of Gate level guy. I wouldn't put the belt on him right now, but in a year or 2, I think he's going to be grasping at that, the belt strap, before we know it. I think he's got everything.
Something that was also brought up at Open Voice Gate. I think he should surpass the level of Brave Gate.
Yeah,
he must be over 82 kilogram when you look at him right now, so he would be above that. They still list him as at 80 kilogram. I don't know about that.
I want to get him on a scale.
Again,
like to see what he's up to.
I don't know about that if that is really accurate.
No, I mean
more like 85.
And maybe he will be. Ultimately, he should be a main event player.
So, how about this, Dylan? I don't think that it's the right moment for Mochi to turn heel, Mochi Jr. to turn heel. What about this unit for a start? Ben-K, Mochi Jr., and Ryo Fuda.
I think that's perfect. Like, it gives Fuda something to do. If he could just stay healthy,
yeah.
You could bring something like that out of him. Like, you bring him in there, step him up a little bit. Give him a little bit of a run. You could throw somebody in there. Like a 4th guy, younger guy. Figure out something to do with. See what's going to happen. because there's a lot of questions around vibes too. Although they felt like they kind of solidified them for now. Maybe down the line, like a year or so, they could do break some people off from there, because like I said, it was a cool moment. Like, don't get me wrong, when they reunited and Jay helped out KZ in the end. But I think that they're kind of like in this weird. They're just where they've always been at this point. They didn't really grow from all of that at the moment. So they need to do something in the future with that, split somebody off. I don't know who that would be. Other than they've done a great job of pushing UT. I will say that. That's another guy they've elevated for sure in recent memory. But I think if you could get somebody from there, you could really make a case for this BNK unit. Those three guys you named as the centerpiece, I love it. I think that would be great. What about Mochi, especially right now? I
will name a fourth guy. I will name a fourth guy because I don't think that there is the possibility. I know I say that a lot, and I say that always. There is a possibility of natural vibes going away.
Yeah, you've been predicting their demise for years.
Because we're in this new run with Strong Machine J at the lead of Natural Vibes, and KZ weirdly has taken a step back, but is still doing big matches for Natural Vibes. So there has to be some story coming soonish that there is once again strife in Natural Vibes. And if Natural Vibes should fold at some point, the fourth guy for the unit that I just mentioned is Big Boss Shimizu. Bring back Big Ben.
Oh, perfect. Like absolutely perfect idea. Like I would love that so much. Have Mochi and Fuda be a team, and Big Ben. Like this perfectly works. Like this group you've made is automatically my favorite faction. And maybe all of wrestling.
Imagine them going in 8-man tags against D-Courage. That would be perfect.
Oh yeah, I love that idea. Like if they could pull something like that off. I was thinking about maybe KZ being the one to join Paradox, throw a little flavor into that team, put him and Susumu as a team. Man, we want this. Like this, that's what I'm saying about this. Look at this company right now. Like we're on the verge, or have accomplished, people like Ben K, Daya, Jason. Those were our predictions to win the belts. This is my wrestling, Strigga. Like this is what they're putting together. They're booking it for me and what I like right now. They're doing everything that I like. They're really on a good run right now. And on top of it, not just are they pushing good guys, they've got interesting things. Like look at all this speculating we're doing right now. It could go so many ways up and down this roster that they have so many interesting things going on. I'm really feeling it right now. They're definitely on a good run heading into Kobe World, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yes. That is a great run for Dragon Gate that they're right now on. Yeah, I know that would be it for Dragon Gate that I have. Anything else?
No. I think we covered it off. Yeah, no, like right. Paradox. Yeah, Big K. Yeah, good. All right, let's go to New Japan Pro Wrestling then. We're going back to Dragon Gate. We're going to talk about that same thing over again.
I had so much fun talking about Dragon Gate.
Yeah.
We could just continue. But no, well, I had so much fun this past Monday watching the Despe Invitacional. What a great show. And I can spoiler you right now, and I said it on Twitter. This, without a shadow of a doubt, is winning my half-year award for best show. Because, they had this mystery Vortex show, and it could have gone in a lot of directions. But the energy in Korakuen Hall was, from the very first moment, was so huge that I was glued to the screen. I was fascinated. I was spellbound. I was mesmerized. Dylan, I don't know any words that I can come up with. It was such a great show, and you got to give it to Despe. Despe probably had the time of his life, and you saw it when he was on commentary. You could see it in his face that he had the time of his life putting together this show that I would say, and I also said that on Twitter, is a much, much better version of the actual altogether, because not only did this feel like a organic show, it also felt like a get-together of Japanese pro wrestling that's not the big two, so to speak, or the big three, so to speak. We got Freedoms, we got guys from Dragon Gate, we got guys from DDT and all different companies coming together to celebrate pro wrestling and to have so many different types of matches that, man, this show was on a day that I really didn't feel well. I sat down and I watched, and the energy floated through my body just from watching this particular show, and I was so happy that Desperado got to do it. I don't know. I'm lost for words right now. I think I said as many words as I need to. Dylan, Despe Invitacional.
I'll say one thing. Was it really Desperado that had the time of his life? Or was it Rina Yamashita?
Oh, man. Rina, yes. Or was it Chris Brooks who had the time of his life? You could name any wrestler on this card, and you'd probably say they had the time of his life. Gypsy Kasai, did she have the time of her life? Sitting ringside, getting flowers from Hiromu Takahashi. Hiromu Takahashi getting bloodied on the guardrail. Did he have the time of his life on this show?
But just Yamashita's commentary added so much to this, in my opinion. Literally just him bringing her out of the crowd. Like, Jun Kasai's entrance was...
Or maybe, Dylan, was it you that had the time of his life because of the special singles match between Zack Sabre Jr. and Hikaru Sato?
Oh, that was a phenomenal match, for sure. I mean, it was really cool because, I mean, this was ultimately a vibe show. Like,
yes.
For sure, I wouldn't list a lot of these matches in a match of the year list or anything like that, but it was the whole... Like, the total package of the show,
They started it out perfectly with Tanahashi and Toru Yano coming out and bringing in Kyoko Inoue as their tag team partner. And then we had the Carnival, what's the song called? I don't know, for Yuki Miyamoto and Isami Kudaka. We had them coming out and Dashi Zako as their partner. So this was a perfect start to what the show was slated to be later.
Did you have Mima Shimoda?
Yes! Mima Shimoda. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. They had the Lego match. Again, Kasai, the energy around that match with Hiromu and Kasai teaming was different than anything else on the show, in my opinion.
The entrance went so hard. Man, Hiromu Takahashi hasn't looked as energetic in New Japan Pro Wrestling in a long, long time as on this particular show.
I totally agree. And you could tell the difference. Between what he's been doing the last year and how he was on this show, I would say, you had everything. I mean, in a lot of ways, this was like a proto DDT show. Like, ultimately, just with Desperado running it. Ultimately, I mean, you had the 4-way, which is kind of like a mix of comedy and death match. The tag, same. You had Ueki in there. Sasaki had his own match. You had these weird pairings and stuff on there that was a lot of fun. Despe and Shimoda, Starlight and Dragon Kid teaming together. That was really cool. Starlight Kid's Despe-inspired mask was awesome.
Oh, yes.
As well. And then you just have this random-ass Sato and Zack match on there. just in case I got bored, they're like, here you can have this match, Dylan. Like, put Sato in here. And, another banger. No surprise there. And that match did rule, for the record. The main event, again, a DDT-style main event, which it wasn't for me, but the vibes were so strong, you're not going to criticize it too much overall. So, a lot of fun, a great turnout for the show, and, I mean, between this and the tournament, Desperado living his best life right now, I think, on a personal level.
And, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the main event, but it's probably what Desperado wanted to do. So more.
Well, it obviously was. I mean, he wrestled twice on the show, so obviously he wanted to do it. And I mean, I'm not going to take his dreams away at the end of the day just because I didn't like it. That doesn't mean that. Yeah. I'm not going to take his dreams away from him. But yeah, great vibe show. Keep your what you want to say. I mean, we probably got like maybe 1, maybe 2 shows before we hit that half-year award show. I'm probably going to work on some logos and stuff coming soon for it. So keep that in mind. Now's the time to start thinking about it a little bit as we get near the end of the month. So this can be up there for sure. I mean, the vibes. I mean, in terms of a crowd and, again, the true vibes and not just using it as a buzzword, but just actual vibes of the show, I think you'd easily make the case this was the best of the year.
Yeah, easily. And I want to give you a hot take on Desperado, Dylan. From here, transitioning to the Best of the Super Junior final and Dominion.
You think he should lose the mask?
No, I don't think he should.
Okay.
No. Taking, of course, Jon Moxley out of contention because he's not a New Japan wrestler, but he's the champion right now. I'm going to put this out to you and want to see what you have to say to this. Pound for pound, right now in New Japan Pro Wrestling, El Desperado is the biggest star they have.
But how do you define pound for pound in this interest?
Without the weight limitations that we have. He's still contested as a junior heavyweight.
Right.
They do have an open weight title on
Kinda.
paper, kind of.
Yeah.
They do have an open weight 6-man tag title, yes, but they still have weight limitations, and they hardly ever put a guy into a main event position that is a junior heavyweight, but they did for Dominion, and they did knowing, of course, that they would be putting El Desperado in that position. And you can say that they drew a good house, with the Best of the Super Junior final being in the main event. And that was the best draw that a Best of the Super Junior final did in, I think, over 20 years. I think the Koji Kanemoto and Dr. Wagner Jr., so Junior's dad, that match in...
It was such a good match, too.
98, 96, something like that?
It was after 96. It had to be either 98 or 99.
Yeah, right. There was a singular show with the final in the main event. We had other junior Best of the Super Junior finals that had other title matches on top of them that drew bigger houses, of course. So heavyweight title matches on top of them. But this one was a junior title match in the main event position with a pretty weak heavyweight title match underneath it and a pretty weak card underneath it. So you can say this drew a very good house. So I'm defining this pound for pound with looking at the entire roster of people that we have in New Japan. And we have, Dylan, in the past struggled to find out who really is a standout star for the company right now. So that might be, of course, a feather in the cap for El Desperado to be named by me here in the conversation of being the biggest star, but also not a very good look for New Japan Pro Wrestling that a quote-unquote just a junior is considered to be one of the big stars.
I mean, definitely you're saying that means more than any title and weighs heavily more than anything New Japan could do. Ultimately, I think we all accept.
I have one opinion, Dylan, and they have 13 belts.
Accurate. Yeah. It's interesting you said it because he's historically been kind of a flop whenever they tried to test him in these kind of spots before, like most notably against Okada, which was a very poor showing in the anniversary show. Even in the semifinals, he, like, in this tournament, I liked his tournament a lot. He's good. He wrestled in it for sure. Like, and wrestled good in all of his matches and had some of the best matches. Against Doki, against Fujita. I never really felt like he was like the biggest star of this tournament, like blow away. Like in the tournament itself, even his A block final versus Hayata did less than the B block final, which was very interesting. It doesn't matter at the end. They did roll the dice. I mean, this was clearly a plan. Like this, putting them in the final of Dominion, the main event, first time ever. It was a total vote of confidence and a roll of the dice. Again, it's been talked about. This Moxley title reign sucks. Like, doesn't mean anything in Japan. For sure, they sacrificed everything to go for the U.S. dollar. Like, all right, like you made that move. Yes. To be fair, if you judge it how it is, like considering how this played out with this Dominion, on paper, I mean, this was a risk. Like, this could have gone south. Like imagine if this could have done 1,000 people less in my mind, than it actually did. And to be fair, last year's match with Sonata and Tsuji was considered not a great number and was not that dissimilar from this. I think it was like 200 fans. But this was something totally different, a risky move, a ballsy move. And it paid off. Like, Desperado delivered here. Like, this felt like his ascension to being like he's solidified himself now finally. Like, with this tournament win, this was his main story. He got the win, and then obviously
the Dominion last year did 7,040.
Yeah, so about 200 less.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was considered a poor number at the time. And this is not that different, but is looked at more positively, which is interesting. But I think that's because, again, it was such a risky move, like to put the juniors in the main event. And like you said, this undercard, they didn't have help on this undercard, my friends. Like, it was up to this tournament. And on top of it, I respect him a lot. Like, I've always, he used to be one of my favorites. Like, I thought he was one of the best all around. Ishimori is not the guy I would have put in this spot.
No.
I was shocked that Hiromu didn't make the main event of this. Me and you both were like totally convinced.
Yes.
And I think not just me and you, I think everybody was like, no one argued with us at all. Everyone thought Hiromu was a lock to get in. He didn't even get to the semifinals here.
That was so crazy. Yeah. We have to say that. We totally did not expect that.
No, and I think it's great. Like, I love that New Japan, again, you can say what you want about the heavyweight reign right now, but I like that they're trying different things, trying to switch some things up. I think it really proved very effective for this Dominion. Desperado's never felt like bigger than he was. I didn't think this was a great match, to be honest with you, and especially with the quality of the finals. Like, this tournament has a legacy. Go back to the final matches of the last 6-7 tournaments. All amazing matches, match of the year vote getting.
Yeah, this couldn't hold a candle to last year's Wato versus Titan, was it right?
Yeah, and that was a fantastic match. And again, a total surprise that they did. A total surprise move. But you go back, and not just that match, but again, going back years at this point, I think you would put this up against the main events of the tournament in the past. And I just don't think it compares overall. And I think putting Ishimori in, I get it. He's respected. He's a veteran. He had a nice story over Hiromu getting the win back after last year's very scary injury that he had. But he wouldn't have been my pick, ultimately. I mean, you look at the legacy of this tournament, you got things like, both of these two matches with Hiromu's finals blew this away, in my opinion. Like, if that were a main event, that would have been a legendary match. And there are both legendary matches in their own right, as it is. But then you got, like, Kushida and Ospreay.
Yeah.
And, like, amazing match. Ospreay and Shingo, like, was fantastic.
Right.
You mentioned Wato Titan, like, great match. So they're doing.
Wasn't Kyle O'Reilly also in one final?
O'Reilly,
wasn't he? Let's see. Tournaments.
I'm going back right now, looking at it. Let's see how far we can go back to Kyle here.
Maybe I may be wrong on that one.
What about Kyle Kushida from?
He was in the final in 2015.
Yeah, that's right. We have to go back a little ways, but yeah, he was there. That was a fantastic match as well. And, they had that Taguchi year, the year after they made the final as well. But overall, this was not a high-end, best of Super Junior final match. I would argue the semifinals, the match that both of these two had, were better than this match.
I agree.
Actually, with TJP and Doki, respectively. So they're doing good things. I love it. And here is the problem that totally shatters Desperado being the biggest star in the company, unfortunately, is that what did he win by winning this tournament? What match did he get out of this?
He wrestled Show for the junior title.
And that's that. Unfortunately, like, that's the unfortunate, tragic part of being the junior in the New Japan. There's no hope for you.
You're getting sucked into the vortex of the House of Torture.
I mean, for now, that's going to go away. I mean, I think Desperado is winning that belt.
Sure.
For sure. But then what? Like, the G1's going to start, and we're not going to see the juniors for 3 months. So,
exactly.
It's a never-ending story.
Yeah, but one more thing on Desperado Dylan, because I forgot to point that out, and I wanted to point that out. Flosh made this great tweet the other day, and I want to stress that I was so happy with the Desperado show because it was a show for us specifically that watch all of Japanese wrestling and some of the weirder companies in Japanese pro wrestling, and it was really a show for the sickos. Thank you, Desperado.
Yeah, I was talking to our friend and guest host of the show at times, Dean, on Twitter. He was really putting it over.
Dean.
Oh yeah, super knowledgeable guy. Can't wait to talk to him again soon. I want to work on that. It's been too long since me and him talked.
Sure.
But we were talking, and he was telling me how great it was, pretty much. And I made the comparison, and Act 1 as well, with the 20-year anniversary of 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, My Chemical Romance's best album, releasing. This to me felt like a music guy, a producer or whatever, putting together a show with like a major headlining act, like Desperado and Hiromu coming in, and then surrounding them with all of these indie bands, and just chaos was wreaked. Like it wasn't any kind of show like you would have normally. It was just all different styles of these crazy ass bands and crazy ass things. The music's going crazy, mosh pits and all that crap happened. It was just a wild show, and that's what this felt like to me. An indie show at heart with a little bit of big time backing behind it that made it special. It kind of bridged the gap between those two worlds.
It did. It really did. Let's look at some of more matches on this card, Dylan, particularly bigger ones here on Dominion. The match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Jon Moxley defended against Evil. What was your reaction to that match afterwards?
Yeah, if we had done a show the day of this show, I would have been thinking, man.
Let's say we had done that.
Yeah, let's just fantasize that happened. I would have said, I don't understand the reaction to this match at all. Because I saw a lot of people saying that this was just like one of the best House of Torture matches ever. And I just don't understand what was that different about it between this and every. They had all of the tropes of their matches almost into this. And on top of it, a cardinal sin of this, you get the thing is, the biggest pop of this match was not the House of Torture stuff. It was the barbed wire bat that got brought out. Yeah. Like, that was the big moment of this match. And in a Jon Moxley match, I want to remind you, no blood was seen in here.
I was shocked.
So to me, but ultimately, this card in general, like the immediate reaction that I saw, pretty much, outside of one match that I think is kind of underrated on this card, that came down. Like pretty much everyone else, another half of the spectrum or whatever came in and said, hey, we also didn't like this match at all, and it is kind of the same crap. And it didn't really help anybody, ultimately.
Yeah. I thought this match sucked. I have no idea how anyone could have liked it. We're at 6.33 on Cage Match. I think that's far too high for a match of that caliber that we have here. It was just a goofy spectacle. Everything that we know from the House of Torture. It can be in a small doses. It can be entertaining, and it can be entertaining on positions on the card, but not on the main event positions. I've said that and stressed that a lot over the past years here. So,
and not just you, Strigga. Tanahashi, the president, said that.
Yes.
As well. That's another thing about this whole show. There was multiple things on this show that directly contradicted that press conference of all of these points that they were trying to make to fix the company. So that kind of tells you exactly where they're at right now. Who knows, though? Maybe they'll get around to fulfilling this all one day. And didn't he make a comment, too, that he was like, tune in on Sunday. Like, I have something in mind. If I have to get physical, I will.
Yeah.
Nothing like that happened.
Nothing happened, of course. Yeah, these press conferences are nothing more than lip service. It was pretty funny.
And another thing about this that sucked, this whole story with Mox and the third generation was like to see them, like that's awesome and all. The problem is this is like total half and half booking, like crazy stuff, like no sense of direction where they're going. They're just spinning out of control because half of the story is Mox is the one that loves New Japan
Pro Wrestling, yes.
Yeah. He is the one that's defending the honor of IWGP, and to do that, he's bringing in the legends. On the other hand, half of this roster is making comments about how his title reign sucks because he's never here and he's not a good champion. So, which is it? like they don't even know what stories they're telling with him right now.
I want to add one more thing to that third generation storyline. Half of the team isn't even part of the third generation. With Togi Makabe and Tiger Mask.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. You're right, totally right about that as well. But whatever.
They need bodies. I mean,
exactly. They're older. They're veterans. Wheel Makabe out, from whatever cave he lives in, eating those.
Props to Tiger Mask for still being able to do a dive.
Listen, Tiger Mask, he is a legend to some people.
But it's crazy how far different him and, for example, Masaki Mochizuki are, right? When you look at their physical ability.
It's ridiculous to even compare them at this point. But yeah, so again, bad booking, bad match, the same stuff as always. And like I said, the biggest pop was for the barbed wire bat, and they didn't even use it effectively. I mean, it was part of the finish with the Death Rider on it, but we didn't even get any blood. So this match didn't do anything for me, for sure. And, it was just ultimately this whole House of Torture thing, to bring it back to what I said earlier, they punted this for Japan. It doesn't matter. It's literally a waste of time without wasting any big matches. Was all this was. And now they're going to rewrite those wrongs, of all of this bullcrap, very soon and put the title back on Naito.
Quickly going through some more stuff on this card before we go to the G1 announcement. One of the other talking points that Tanahashi had is they are going to split the Strong and the IWGP tag team titles, or the Strong titles limited to America. Of course, we had a Strong title match on this card. Yes, it was announced before the press conference, but it looked really ridiculous when Tanahashi said it, and he had to admit, yep, we have a Strong title match on this card. So TMDK were the logical choice here because they also wrestle in America. They'll defend the Strong title there and the IWGP title here in Japan, maybe losing one of them rather soon. Who knows? Who cares? This match didn't really do a lot.
This didn't capture your heart and mind?
No. The King of Pro Wrestling title match, unfortunately...
Also, bye-bye Hikuleo.
Bye-bye Hikuleo, yes.
Yeah,
hello, Bloodline. Yes.
Yes, Tala Tonga.
Yeah. The King of Pro Wrestling title match, unfortunately, did not live up to the rules it had. They could have done so much more in the situation.
Yeah.
Great Khan and Yuya Omura, I think. Storm Catch rules said that they couldn't throw fists, couldn't throw strikes. They just had to wrestle. And they did some good stuff working around the rope breaks. I thought they could have done some more with the rope breaks, some more drama with the rope breaks. They could have also done much more with illegal strikes being thrown in this match, and maybe the ref getting into their faces for throwing an illegal strike, getting out a yellow card or whatnot. But for that, it was just a fun undercut, storyline, stipulation, whatever. These two are just dudes on the roster.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I would recommend the match Okan had with Yano a few years ago, where they had a similar stipulation, and I thought executed it much better and more entertaining than this match. And like you said, ultimately, can you be more nondescript than these two on the roster right now? And on top of it, is this feud going to continue now that he's got the title?
I feel like they are trading the title back and forth now.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is these two guys' role for now on, and probably for the next 5 years.
Yes.
Is going to be King of Pro Wrestling division.
Let's talk about the best match on the card.
Yeah.
Clearly Jeff Cobb and Tomohiro Ishii.
Well, let me tell you something. I love this match. I love Ishii so much. And to bring up the half-year awards, I bet he gets next to no consideration for the Tanahashi Trophy for the best in-ring wrestler. And it's unbelievable when you watch his matches. To me, truly, like, one of the more underrated talents, I would say overall. And once again, Ishii haters going to that place known as the Mud, because all of the times we hear that he only does the same stuff, here he is breaking out a Hurricane Rana during his matches.
A fucking pop-up Hurricane Rana, I might say.
And it was amazing. Like, it was so good. Like, it was like
He was standing in the air, it looked like.
The thing that makes him so great isn't actually like the stuff that he gets credited for a lot, like his hard hitting and his hard nosed tough guy character. That's all great. Like, he's a great wrestler just in terms of the moves and how he executes them. But his timing and the little drops of physical charisma he adds into his matches is so damn great that it can make anything work. Cobb, I think, again, I said it before, I think he's a great fit for this TV title. He did great, too. They had their bull stuff going on, big guy, meat match, whatever. It was cool. They brought in the athletic stuff, which Ishii had no problem going in there. And they really made this feel like, even though it wasn't an epic match or anything like that, it didn't need to be. They accomplished everything they wanted in the time period they had. And the match was really good.
And it's good. It's good that it didn't go 20, because for 12, this was really a perfect title match for the television title.
I kind of wish they had done a draw. Like, that would have been something kind of unique for the title. Build intrigue, put them in the same block in the G1. You could build to a final match there. I think I would have had done that, but I don't mind. Nope. They're pushing Cobb and Ishii. I mean, he's totally not pushed at all in the company. There's no question about that. But he's so good as this utility player, and that's why he's been doing it for all of these years and continues to do it to this day.
I wish they had not done a draw with the Never Openweight title match, because that sucked. And it not only sucked for a finish, but it also sucked the energy out of the entire building, because Shingo Takagi and Hinare were going hard for the Never title. They have great chemistry, and the crowd, much like I, watching, was feeling that this was Hinare's moment to finally win something in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He has had a great return the last couple of weeks and went for the title right away. And it totally, in my opinion, felt like his moment to be crowned. But once again, they did not go that route. They once again hesitated. They once again will maybe do another one. But I don't think that they will ever be able to go back to this point in time, to this particular day in Osaka Joe Hall, in front of this great crowd that wanted Hinare to win the title. This was the ultimate wrong call, and the crowd gave their reaction to it because they immediately went silent when this match ended in double KO. This was bad. And what followed was the lumberjack match. So the final two matches here before the main event, they really, they had the crowd suffer through a lot, which is why they did a intermission before the actual main event here.
But before that, the meaningless tag title match.
Exactly.
So it's like, this was a rough part of the card for sure. Match was pretty good. It's tough. Like, comparing this to Cobb and Ishii, I thought they were doing a lesser version of that, but the crowd was definitely into Hinare. Your points were all right. I really like Hinare as a wrestler. I think it's just incredible how they've bungled the Empire since the cage match in February. Like, nobody gained anything from that
match. I want to give them this. I think that Akira would have gone far in the Best of the Super Junior hadn't he been injured.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. But
we don't know that, but I have the feeling.
Yeah, maybe. Like I said, I'll leave it at maybe, but it definitely didn't happen. We know that for sure. And nobody's gained anything from it, ultimately. And that's just a shame for what was such a special match and an epic win for everybody involved. It just feels like everybody spun their wheels completely. But Hinare, he had the injury in that match, to be fair, and he was off for a little while. But it didn't stop him here. Like you said, the crowd was into it. They could have definitely put it on him. And again, he's at a point, too, where this worthless belt that they're fighting over actually wouldn't have been worthless for him to win, because it would have been something. And they passed that up. Shingo, I mean, I like him. A very talented wrestler. We all know that. No swag whatsoever on his date with Stephanie that they had on there.
Poor guy, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hating on him. I'm just stating the facts. Yes. That's all. But hey, I love him as a wrestler, and he's a great guy to have in these singles matches. But the belt doesn't mean anything for him that it would mean for somebody like Hinare.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I kind of liked the flow of the show until that point of the card because they had different matches. They went quick for some of the matches. I like the idea of Naito being in the opener against Callum Newman. Gave Newman a good showing and answered our question if he's a heavyweight or a junior, Dylan. So
yeah, they've been answering that for the past few months, and we did apologize for that.
Yes.
Questioned that before. That should have happened in February after the cage match. I'm not saying for the belt, but when Naito was champion, they should have given him like a whatever you want to call it kind of match, like just like this. Just do this exact match, just coming off of the cage.
An IWGP World Heavyweight Championship Eliminator match? Is that what you wanted?
No, nothing like that. But just like a match, a showcase type of match here. Coming off the cage, coming off of Ospreay, he was the main guy that Ospreay put over in that promo, pretty much, saying he's his successor and asking everyone to take care of him, just like they did him. They could have easily have gone in that, and I think it would have done a lot more. But the fact that this match even happened at all shows you that he is a project for them, and he's going to be somebody that's going to get a big run going forward. He kind of feels like where Phantasmo was a few years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Overall,
that's right.
And that hasn't really gone super high. I mean, he's got a role on the card. Maybe Newman is going to be their next foreign talent. You can tell that they're really high on him to put him in a match with Naito. This is not a meaningless match. I guarantee it shows you what they think of him.
Yep. Yeah, so Naito is getting the title match, like you said. They are giving that to Forbidden Door in...
He could have been the number one contender if he beat Naito here. Like, Newman would have challenged.
Yes.
That was an unofficial number one contender match.
Yeah, right. So the title match has been given away to America, presumably with Naito coming out on top, I want to say. Dylan?
I mean, what was the point of all this if he doesn't win at the end of the day? Like I said, there's logic behind this. I don't fully agree, and I don't like Moxley's title reign at all for various reasons. But hopefully, I think that they want to have a title change of the belt on Forbidden Door with one of their guys winning. You can springboard that with the G1 coming right around the corner. You get this big exciting moment with the belt. I don't think that'll be the main event on that show. I think it would be Ospreay and Swerve. So I mean, maybe it will be. Maybe we'll be proven wrong. But I think they want the title.
I think it will be Ospreay and Swerve.
Yeah, exactly. So this won't be the main event, but New Japan gets their title change. Hopefully draw some new people over for G1. Subscribe. Maybe AEW fans that fell off. You get this big title match, title win. Now you get some excitement. The crowd's going to be super hot for that. I mean, say what you want about the match quality. The crowd's going to love it. They're going to pop huge for the title switch, and then they bridge right to G1. So there's logic behind it. It's just very predictable. Like at the end of the day, I mean, I don't see any argument for why Mox should retain this belt.
Me neither. So for the final topic today, Dylan, let us look at the G1 Climax announcement, because that's going to be interesting where they go with that, given who the champion is. They announced a change of the format again, so they are going back to 2 blocks. And the 2 blocks will be contested between 10 wrestlers in each block. There will be a tournament to decide the final addition to each block on the next tour between June 22 and July 5. And the tournament, as I'm reading it, will be a round-robin tournament, because they said there will be first round, semifinals, and final matches. So I guess 2 tournaments to set up 2 more contestants for the G1, which is great because it adds some anticipation for the tournament to have a qualification tournament. Great idea on New Japan's part. And the format of the tournament is going to be changed. So the first one in each block automatically qualifies for the semifinals. The second and third of Block A and Block B will once again wrestle one another to then face the block winner in the semifinal. So that opens up different ideas, different booking patterns that you could do. For example, Dylan, you could have a guy run very dominantly in one block to qualify for the semifinals, and you can have place 2 and place 3 be hard fought. You could also have in one block have 2 guys that battle for the number 1 position with the second guy losing out. You could also have a strong battle for the 3rd place, for example. So it makes the midfield of the blocks, it could make the midfield of the blocks more interesting to the viewers, and it could open up more possibilities on the final days of the tournament. So various options booking-wise, and I think it is a good choice to have returning with the 2 blocks, but opening up it to different outcomes that are possible. And especially with a roster that can use some additional storyline aspects right now, I think they have a new toy to play with, and I hope they will use it well.
On paper, I do like this well enough. I definitely was one of the few that enjoyed the format of last year. The problem with last year wasn't the format.
Exactly.
It was that so many of these guys sucked. If they cut off half of the field, and
but it also was it wasn't the format; it was the layout of the blocks as well.
That also hurt. Yeah, the layouts of the blocks were not well done at all. And if they cut out like bottom half of the guys of that tournament and done the same format, I think it would have been very successful and well liked. But because it was so many people with 32, that ended up screwing everything up. If they had done 20-man format with the 4 blocks, I think that could have worked. It'd been very enjoyable. But with this, it's unique. It's doing something different, trying something new, and I think that's something we always like when it comes to New Japan. The format also emphasizes winning the block. You know, like being number 1 means more than number 2 or 3. It gives you rewards for it. You get the opportunity with the play-in tournament to tease, not only have some new matches to build up, maybe lower tier matches that you could have great spots with, but also it just adds more prestige that even getting into the tournament itself means something again. And I think that is one of the big wins for this, because the last few years it was just like everybody's in the tournament, like, you know, like putting all 32 people in. Now it actually means something, you know, and you can even tell a story of a painful somebody who loses on the last day to miss out on the tournament. Like that could be a story in and of itself. I see a possibility that this turns into a convoluted mess. I will admit that if the booking goes off the wall, they go too far out there, it just confuses everybody with all these tournaments. There was a great comment on the Eastern Lariat Twitter from Anthony Lewis at Sega of My House 1. Love Sega references, first of all. But secondly, he said, "Hey, dog, I hear you like tournaments, so I created a tournament where the winners get to advance to a tournament," which is accurate. Like, that's exactly what this play-in tournament is, to be fair. But I like it on paper. I'm cautiously optimistic. Like our poll said, where a lot of people said cautiously optimistic was where they're at with New Japan right now. 58% said that. We had hundreds of votes for that, too. And I'm cautiously optimistic about this, but I could see the potential where this turns into something goofy by the end, and we're like, damn, why did they go so over the top with these tournaments, one after the other?
Yeah, I think I like this format. Just
I
on
do.
paper.
Yeah.
I liked the one last year too, and I think if the blocks had been laid out better, people would have liked the 4-block system too.
Opinion. I agree with that.
Yes. So, Jon Moxley, let's say he loses the title. Will he be in the G1 to avenge the loss to Naito?
Here's the problem with these AEW guys.
Yeah.
If they're going to be in a big spot at Wembley, I don't see them risking their.
Right.
You know, I just don't see them risking it on this tournament. I don't think he's in.
Yeah, I can see that. When is the Wembley? The Wembley show is in late August after the G1 Climax, but I get where you're coming from.
I just don't think they'd risk an injury. Like with somebody like that. Who on the AEW, at least with a major guy?
Daniel Garcia.
And I was going to say, like, I think there will be an AEW guy in this tournament.
Yeah.
I just don't think it'll be a main event player like that.
I would
like
love Daniel Garcia.
like the dream would be Bryan Danielson.
Sure.
You know, if he could be in the tournament, put him in.
Well,
like, and maybe
presumably also going to be in a big match at All In.
Oh yeah. And I would love, you know, maybe he's got enough political sway where he could just force the issue anyway. His retirement road, he's never done a G1. That's the dream. I'm not putting that at 0% because of this retirement talk that he's had, but it's very close.
I think the chances would have been more likely with a 4-block system because he wouldn't have had to wrestle as many matches.
I think, like, Ospreay's not going to be in this tournament.
No.
You know, Okada's out.
Sure.
You know, for sure. But if you look at this roster, I'm going to throw a name at you. There was one guy I thought of immediately that I thought would be the perfect pick for this tournament. He's not doing anything of note. In fact, he's in a really goofy role right now. But I think he would be a great player to have in, gain something from it, and I think he would be one of the few guys on AEW that I think would be a legit difference maker to this tournament. Shibata.
I don't think we'll ever see him in New Japan again, to be quite honest.
There may be heat, but it's you know, right now, that was before his buddy Tanahashi became the president as well, with AEW. I think there's a pretty decent chance that he could be the pick.
I would love that, actually.
It's better than being a cameraman.
Yeah.
Talking into phones? Is that what you want to do?
I agree with you. I
just don't think there's a better option. Daniel Garcia is not a New Japan heavyweight, in my opinion. I have to admit and say, like, I don't foresee him in that role. I think Claudio would be a good pick.
Yes. Yeah.
New Japan experience before was over. You could tie it into the BCC if you want to do that. He's kind of like, you know, Brian may be the dream, but Claudio's a great pick, would have amazing matches with everybody. Shibata and Claudio, I think Shibata would be a legit difference maker. And that's another problem with that, like why I would throw out old intentions of them not using him. They need stars in this tournament. They don't have any of those. If you look at this tournament, outside of one guy, like there's nobody in this tournament that's any kind of difference maker.
I want to throw another name to you.
Yeah.
Brody King.
Oh, he's a great wrestler, for sure. And he would get over in Japan, I think, for sure. Yeah, I would love him. That's a great pick. The thing is, on this roster, if you just go by good wrestlers with AEW,
yes,
say what you want about their booking, which we can all talk about forever with a lot of this goofy stuff that they do with people. If you just look at talent, this thing is loaded. Like with people that you could have in it, would have amazing tournaments if they chose to go with them. And I think that you could point at any one of them, and on top of it, again, that would fulfill a great role that they wouldn't be in main matches at Wembley. Like, even just mid-card guys you could put in here, and you still have a ton of guys that would fulfill that.
I just hope they don't go with a lame answer Lance Archer once again.
Yeah, I mean, I like him, but he's been there. You know, it wouldn't have that pressure.
And he's not a new guy to New Japan. So
exactly.
I want a new guy with new matches in this tournament.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. But we will see what happens. Maybe they could set something up for Forbidden Door, something like that. I think I would definitely have that in mind. If I were New Japan, I would say, like, there's going to be an announcement of somebody joining the G1 at the Forbidden Door, and we're going to announce it there.
Yep.
But we'll see. There's a lot. Again, we could just run down the list of this roster, and you can get a lot of guys. What about Double J? Jeff Jarrett getting into the G1.
How about Billy Gunn?
I mean, he doesn't have Jeff's a better politician.
Yeah, that's true.
They got so many guys that have a New Japan experience and stuff like that. Even just this year, Jungle Boy was in House of Torture earlier.
Oh yeah.
Now he's in a new faction himself. But I do think there will be, bottom line, an AEW guy in this tournament, and hopefully we get a good one.
And we expect Jake Lee to also be in the tournament to represent Pro Wrestling Noah's side. Do you expect anyone else from Noah?
No, I think Jake, they've set this up, worked hard on it. I think it makes perfect sense. On there. I mean, we'll see what happens in Altogether. We're recording it before that.
Exactly.
To be fair. So if Naito just beats him, maybe I'll change my mind about that. But I think they'll set something up.
All Japan?
and I was kind of teasing this on the Patreon show I did for Dominion a few days ago. I did it after the show. Patreon.com/Eastern Lariat, by the way. If you were, again, this is almost like a pipe dream on paper, but I think out of all the times with Kento, this would be it. Like with Anzai as the champion, you need big stars. Like they're already doing a storyline with this All Together thing that, you know, All Japan Aoyagi didn't want him to work with New Japan, and who's suddenly on the show out of all the time? Like Kento. And look who he's teaming with. Again, I wouldn't write that off, to be honest with you. Like, it would not surprise me. And if you're going to put a guy like that in, remember I said that on the last show. We were talking about, like, fantasy altogether. To me, the biggest match in Japan is Naito versus Kento of any company. And if they could get their hands on that and make that semifinal or whatever in the tournament, I don't think you would win, obviously, but a semifinal in the tournament, I think you jump at that. And you use him to the extent. And on top of it, you have the possibility of Kento being in the G1 before Jake on there, which taking his dream once again. But I wouldn't write him off. Again, much like Shibata, I do not put that at 0%. I think there is a chance greater than any other year.
From the home roster, who could make a first-time appearance in the tournament?
I guess we're writing off Nakajima as well now that he's a goalie.
We're writing off Nakajima.
Yes. I mean, you can't write off anything with him, but I agree. In terms of the home roster right now, you know, I guess they could put Newman in if they wanted.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, he's a product. You know who I'd like to see in? Oleg.
Yeah. I was thinking it probably would be a bit much to put him into the tournament right away, but him winning one of the qualifying tournaments could be the route to go. And if they don't think he's there yet, they could have him lose in the finals of one of the qualifiers.
And we don't know how these these qualifier tournaments are going to play out.
Yeah.
Like we don't know who's in them. Is it going to be Young Lions in a block? Are they going to put fringe guys? Like, you know, is Ishii going to be in this tournament? Like, or Bishamon?
Good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you look at the roster, you know, you could see some guys on the outside looking in, cutting it down to 20. That could be in that tournament. And I think it's going to be tough for him to get in that way, but I think they should put him in however they need to get to it. He's not just going to start beating qualified people left and right to get into the tournament, but if you do a Young Lion block, I would love to see him, and I think he could have some great matches and really gain something from being in. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think there really are any first-timers.
No, just browsing through the roster here, it's...
Maybe Uemura.
Wasn't he in the tournament last year?
Was he in last year? I thought he was still in TNA at the time.
I think he was still in... Yeah, he was still in TNA. That's right.
Yeah. So there's a first-timer.
That's a first-timer. Mm-hmm.
What about this guy? Considering where we left off with him, would it make sense for Hiromu to make this his year to enter the tournament?
I don't think they see him at that level.
I definitely don't either.
They would have done that years ago.
Yes, I totally agree with that. But I think from a narrative perspective, I think this is less likely than any of the guys I've named so far, to be honest with you. Like, I think all of my other ones are more likely than this. But if you think about it from a narrative perspective, Hiromu, he's been campaigning for all of these years that junior heavyweight wrestling is just as good as the heavyweights.
Yep. And
they finally get a main event spot over the world champion, like on a show, like for the first time. And he's not.
Yep.
Exactly. That could be the storyline tipping point for him. The juniors don't need me anymore. I need to look up for myself.
I see that. Unfortunately, New Japan Pro Wrestling has always proven us wrong when we thought about Hiromu might be on the verge of moving on.
And as a fan, I was not that interested in his junior run this year, and I would be much more interested in him, even though he's lost something the last few years.
I would be really interested in a Desperado openweight/heavyweight run as well, but I don't see that.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, he'll probably be the junior champion by the time this comes out. So
another first. Yeah, sorry.
No, go on.
Another first timer could have been Roy Oiwa, but he said he's going to be in the N1 victory this year.
Yeah.
So he's out. He's probably.
I think it's a good move, personally. I think he's got way more upside in the N1 than G1. Oh, and when he comes in next year, in all likelihood for G1, he's going to make a splash. I love that guy. I think he's got so much upside. Yeah.
Well, other than that, it's probably going to be the regular roster, right?
And that's the thing. I mean, but some people are going to get left out. That's the more interesting question to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the thing is, you have to expect that Kenta and Chase Owens will be in this tournament, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And that automatically takes away 2 spots.
Is Taichi injured right now?
Taichi?
Yeah. He's
maybe.
not been on any cards since altogether in May.
Well, I mean, I could tell you if we saw that match on there, but yeah, I mean, if he's out, I mean that opens the door up for somebody.
Exactly, yeah.
Will Yano be in the tournament? You think?
Say that every year. We hope not, but he will be in.
Okay, so that takes out a spot. I think Finley will be in.
Yeah.
Evil's going to be in.
Yep.
Kid's going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 like there. Okan, I think he could be out. Like, he might not make the cut.
He was positioned very weak last year.
So and has been positioned weak most of his career as well.
Fair.
So we'll give him a 50-50. We got 3 so far in. Hinare, I think, will be in.
Yeah.
Goto, he's kind of on that cut line.
He's on the bubble.
I think he'll make it. I mean, he was in the final of the cup like this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think he's going to go from there to out of the tournament. So Goto being in means Hashi's in as well. So I'm going to count Bishamon as in.
Yeah,
that's 5. Cobb, he's in.
Yeah.
So that's 6. And we're passing over Hiromu right now, who I suggested earlier.
TMDK, if Bishamon is in, TMDK will be in 2. So
that's 7.
Nichols and Haste.
Oh, God, Haste. I love Nichols. I'm glad.
Yeah. I know, man.
So this is the thing. This is how light the roster is.
So last year, Block C, for example, Tama Tonga is out and Eddie Kingston is out.
Yeah, they're done.
They're out. Alex Coughlin in Block D also retired.
That's right.
Block A, Kaito is out.
Yes.
Who else? Hikuleo is out.
Yeah, he's gone.
So there's spots open.
But that was a 32-person tournament. Like we still got 7. Yeah, we've got like 10 guys that we have to get.
Tangaloa is out. Taichi could be out. Ospreay could be out. Okada. The entire top of Block B last year.
That's right. Okay, so now we've got 23 guys left from that group. Mm-hmm. We need to get rid of about 6 more.
Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough.
Exactly. And you look at it, like I said, we've got the 7 guys and we're halfway through the roster at this point. Tanahashi will be in as well.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention him, but that's 8. Narita, that's 9.
Yep.
Sonata, that's 10.
Sure.
Shingo, I think, will be in. Umino is in.
Unless he's going to do a prolonged stay in the United States.
Really?
He was announced to be in the Owen Hart tournament, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. He'll go out early. That.
Presumably.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that he's in, though. Like, I wish it was a round-robin tournament when you look at the names involved, and then you got Takeshita and that. But it's going to be an elimination, so I don't think he has to stay that long.
Yeah. The Kojima role from last year.
Yeah, exactly. Sonata's in, Tinko's in, Umino's in. That's about 12. Taichi, we're on the fence about. Naito's for sure in, so that's 14. Ishii and Yano, kind of that half and half, like that type of deal. Tsuji's in.
Yeah, Tsuji, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Zach will be in for sure.
Do you have Umino on your list already?
Yeah, I said him.
Okay.
And Ryomura, I think they'll put in, as a fresh face. So that's about 16 guys we've labeled there. And we've got presumably Jake, and then an AEW guy. Mm-hmm. And so then we're trying to find out who these 2 extra guys are. Pretty much. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's okay. I mean,
like this roster that we've labeled is not that exciting.
No.
Like, let's just be honest about it.
Just in comparison to last year, they lost so much star power just with Okada and Ospreay.
Absolutely, and like two guys who are meant like have so much storyline weight behind them too. Here, you're going to be. I think the one thing about this tournament is, let's presume Naito's winning the belt.
Mm-hmm.
This bracket of these blocks is totally wide open to who can win this tournament. Like, there's no obvious answer. Who among these names can main event a dome against Naito? There has to be something up their sleeve. I feel like we're like there's something that's going to happen that nobody sees coming, and that's going to be a big reveal of some sort and lead to a big match at the dome. Because I just don't see it among this roster. I think the thing is, everybody points to Tsuji as that guy.
Yeah.
But I think this year is more like getting him ready. Like next year could be that big jump for him. I don't think they've done enough with him yet.
No, they jump-started him with the title match against Sonata last year, and then they quickly went back.
Yeah.
Now he's in this position where he's the never openweight six-man champion, where he pinched Tanahashi. That was a big thing for him.
A great spear, too.
Great spear, yep. But ultimately, I agree with you that they will probably hold him back a bit to build him up more.
I loved when him and Oleg had their face-off, too.
Oh, yeah.
That needs to be a singles match.
Very soon, yes. That was the point where I said, okay, Oleg has to be in the G1, but maybe not this year, maybe next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
What about Umino?
Yeah, he's kind of like the obvious, like him and Tsuji are the guys.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at this roster, those are the two that you point to. But I feel the same way. Like, they haven't done enough with him. They've done even less with him than Tsuji.
That's correct. Even though he has had a title match.
Did he challenge? Oh, yeah, that's right. He did. He challenged Moxley for the belt. Yeah, in America, yeah. And he's good. And I just think this year for those guys, I could see them making the semis this year. Remember, last year they didn't even get out of the block, even with the 32 man people. They said, "Nah, we got Hikuleo, guys. Like, you guys need to stay out of this."
Great decision in hindsight.
Oh yeah, totally an epic fail. Like in hindsight, did not work whatsoever. But yeah, that's the thing. Like the roster is so poor that really anybody's contender. Someone has to win this tournament. It cannot be nobody wins the G1 this year. I wonder, because again, I have a feeling something big is coming that we're not seeing fully yet, or maybe a lot of people aren't. Again, I don't know why I think that about Kento, like that thing about All Together, man. Like, I think that would be a bold move if he were in the tournament. But again, this is all speculation, and that's fun. Like, that's a fun thing as a fan because so many years it's like, like last year, it was like, of course Naito's going to win the tournament. Like, he's facing Sonata. like at the Dome. But there's no obvious winner this year. And I think that's something that's very interesting.
Yes.
And maybe when they do, whoever they've got in mind, whoever they announce, maybe it'll clear up then, like, oh, of course, so-and-so is in a prime position to win the, whatever. But for right now, I think the speculation's fun. I didn't love Dominion as a show. I think that the Desperado show was a good vibes. I didn't love that tournament in general, that Best of Super Juniors tournament, to be honest with you. But it was all right. Like, I didn't hate it either.
Yeah, lots of middling matches, some good ones.
Yeah, exactly.
A few outstanding ones.
Yeah, I wonder if there'll be any of these that, like, there's usually that one that, like, is match of the year, like everyone points to. But I don't know if we had that this year. I didn't love the tournament. The show was not a great show, but I will say this. Stuff happened on that show, whether it was Naito going after the belt.
And that's not something you could say about a lot of New Japan shows in the last couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, compare that to Sakura Genesis. I mean, that was like literally a build-up to that, the show with Naito and Moxley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, like, stuff happened. They set some things up. They laid the groundwork for good things, even though I don't think they're there yet. I agree with our fans on the poll that we put, the cautiously optimistic. That's about where I'm at, but I'm not completely negative. I feel a little bit of G1 buzz hitting me, but if let me put it this way too. For all the speculating, if this just comes in and it's the same old guys, there's nobody special. There's not even an AEW guy, or it's Lance again, or, They don't even have any outsiders. If they do that, I'm going to be so down on this G1.
And it once again raises the question of the booking committee.
Yeah.
If they have this new format and they just go with the exact same guys once again in the exact same patterns and ideas once again, I don't know what to say about this company.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's the flip side of it, because we're kind of looking at it from a glass half full perspective, talking about all these different cool guys that could be in. But let's face it, this company has not really delivered the goods on that much to even have that kind of faith. But we'll see. I think it'll be interesting to see what they have planned. I think there will be somebody we're not expecting in. That could be a big needle mover, so to speak. Because, like I said, they are not stupid. They need stars, and there's no way anybody with a brain cell can deny that. Like watching this, they have to make some sacrifices. Maybe in years past they wouldn't have brought so and so in. I mean, again, we don't know who this is exactly that I'm talking of, but maybe in years past they wouldn't have reached out to this guy, and now is the time because they need him. Like, they need somebody. They don't need anyone in particular. They just need people that can be difference makers. So again, we'll see, and we will definitely talk about it when the facts get. Do we know when that's getting announced?
I don't know, because I wasn't on the verge of the news.
You would presume that it would be at the start of the tournament.
Well, maybe yes.
Yeah, like the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, that's a presumption by me. I don't know if that's a factual statement.
I don't know right now. I have not.
We'll figure it out.
Yes.
And we'll talk about it whenever it happens.
Exactly.
So it should be fun.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the New Japan site if there's been anything announced.
That's another thing they lied to us about on the press conference. The website trying to get back up.
Mm-hmm.
The English language website still 3 months now.
It's wild. Well, I don't know, but other than that, Dylan and I, we are done with the show. I would say it was really great to talk with you about Marigold, Nakajima, Dragon Gate, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Some speculations about the G1. Always fun to speculate about names. So, yeah, thank you for doing that with me on this fine day right here.
Lots of fun and speculation to be had, and let us know. We want your speculations to the listeners out there. We want to know who you want to see in the tournament. Like, who you thinking it could be? Like, who would be a good vibe? Maybe somebody outside the box. We always want suggestions for cool stuff. And if you do go to our Twitter, you will see every week the Eastern Lariat Power Rankings, a new feature for us on there. Top 10 wrestlers, all culminating with the Wrestler of the Week. We've got 2 editions so far. The first one was Yuma Anzai. Of course, Shoe Pro could not wait to get their hands on that. And as soon as, within minutes of our list hitting the world, the global stage, Weekly Pro Wrestling said, all right, Eastern Lariat, they know who the top guys are. We got to listen to them. We're putting Anzai on the cover. Week 2, Desperado making that jump up. I was waiting to see how this Dominion went. If this came in, this show was a flop. They did 6,000 fans. He might not have got there, but he didn't. He succeeded. He lived his best life. He had his own show. How could we not vote him number 1?
Exactly.
Of course. Who's going to be number 1 next week? We got a lot of stuff on the horizon. It's going to be interesting to see.
It will.
Can someone else take a jump up into that number 1 spot?
We will see next week with a new set of Eastern Lariat Power Rankings. And until then, this has been the show for this week. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Sayonara.